what is it, morning? Good morning. Whew. So we're going to play in a doubles tournament. Going to play in a doubles tournament probably in the spring. Right now it's full-blown winter up here in the north. But I'm starting to think about it. I'm starting to get ready. Starting to play some games with some other prospective teams. I'm starting to think about like what actually makes a good doubles list and what doesn't make a good doubles list, like just from a theoretical perspective, right? Like, so let's have a look. So for me, well, actually, first of all, do you know what's a better start? Let's look at what a doubles tournament actually looks like. So this is the Doubles Impact 2023 Players Pack from this past year, from about 6 months ago. This was no longer than that, but this was in May, beginning of May 2023. This was the very first tournament that I ever played in of any kind, and it was a very, very good entry into like Age of Sigmar and like the community here in the north, and I was overall really impressed and really happy with this tournament and how it went. Shout out to my partner Sam. So the table is the regular size of table. It's 1,000 points times 2. The missions that we played were all like quirky, janky, not necessarily like, they were more like narrative games than they were like matched games, because the doubles tournament is less serious. People are just kind of there to have fun. People were taking shots at during my first game, like really early on. It's like 9 o'clock in the morning, and right, like it was a good time. So let's see. Let me see what else is there. Registration. Okay, doubles armies and how they work. So this doubles pack I feel is going to be relatively the same across, locations, depending on what kind of tournament you're going to and what the atmosphere and the tone of that tournament is. But I kind of feel generally that this is going to be roughly the same. So fundamentally, the way that the game works, like if you wanted to think about it from like just like a guiding principle perspective, everything that happens on the table, right? So the actual models and rolling of dice on all like things that actually matter on the table, holding objectives and all this, that you and your teammate count as two different armies. So for example, you can't issue commands to other people's armies. You can't cast spells in other people's units. You can't give auras and buffs and things like this. And then anything that happens off of the table, anything that's on the scoreboard, like battle tactics, heroic actions, command points, and the like, you're treated as one army. So you only generate one command point at the start of the turn. For example, you pick one battle tactic, and so on and so on. So we're just going to quickly go through some of the important things from this player's pack here. Each player will have their own separate 1,000 point army, following the rules from the matched play pitched battle chart. Okay, these armies must be selected following the usual matched play rules for picking your army. These two armies then combine in your games to create a team army. When building your army, use all the most up-to-date Warhammer Age of Sigmar rules found in the pitched battle publication list found in the General's Handbook. Tome, Celestial Bata Tome, updates found in the White Dwarf can also be used. For example, the Sons of Behemoth Battalion rules. Each player's 1,000 point army is entirely their own and must be fully contained within their own army roster, with some exceptions. All unique units can only be included once per team. That makes sense. You cannot duplicate core battalions in a team, otherwise everybody would be a 2-drop, right? Everybody would be a 2-drop. Each player selects a general from their individual 1,000 point army and may give them a command trait and artifact of power as normal. Note that as per the core rules, you cannot duplicate the same artifacts of power in a team, but command traits are otherwise unaffected. You cannot duplicate universal enhancements in a team. You may not duplicate war scrolls across your team. For example, Ben is using Stormcast Eternal army and Hannah is using a Cities of Sigmar army. Ben has included multiple units of Vindictors in his army, so Hannah may not use Vindictors as well within her army. Players' armies do not need to be able to ally with each other, but different allegiances within a player's army must be able to ally following the normal rules, right? So you can pick any two armies, it doesn't matter, but within an army, the normal rules for allying still apply. When playing your games, rules that relate to an army or player will relate to your team. For example, if one player's model gains control of an objective, the team gains control of it, and anything that is once per player is once per team. Players may not buff, give auras to, cast spells onto, or issue commands to units from their partner's army. Your team generates command points at the start of each battle round and the start of your hero phase as normal, not one per player. She's not in here, sweetie. Preschooler aggro. Don't really have a good spell that drops aggro to a 0. Any extra command points generated by abilities can be shared by the team, excluding heroic leadership, as this point must be assigned to a hero. If one player has spent the points for an endless spell, this is an interesting thing, then all wizards belonging to the team army may use the spell providing they are able to cast it. So it means that in this tournament anyway, you know, endless spells are very powerful. If you include an endless spell, it means that both of you can cast it. So that's pretty good. And then any extra command points generated are also used by the team. So that's another thing to think about too, right? Some armies need extra command points and some armies generate extra command points. So, and you can also think about the command point economy within your team. So it's like, well, for example, I don't know, like this unit needs all-out attack, right? Like we always need all-out attack. Okay, cool. So, you know, like don't run 3 units between your team that are going to need all-out attack all the time, right? We will not be using the unique enhancements, artifacts, and seasonal battalions from the General's Handbook. Right? So, this was the last season, though. I don't think this was using Primal Dice. This wasn't out yet. So, we'll see what that looks like this year. I think that Primals could definitely be included. Right? But we'll see. I think Primals are good, but we'll see. 1 triumph will be awarded to the team with the lowest combined point cost. Either player on the lower point team can use the triumph. Each player may perform a heroic action, at the start of the hero phase, so long as that player still has a hero on the table. So each of you get a heroic action. So that's an exception. I was saying that on the table you're 2 and above the table you're 1, but this is an exception. We'll be ignoring the rule for not allowing one model to cost more than half of your points. Bring and play your big toys if you'd like. The focus of this event is more on fun than competitiveness. So there it is, right? The focus is more on fun than competitiveness. Army rosters, scoring, so all these things are less relevant. And then there's a bunch of battle plans, but again, they're all kind of, you know, like I don't want to say that they're silly, but they're more like fun, right? They're more for fun. So they're kind of swingy and they have weird moving parts and like they're good. Like they were a good time. So for me, in my view, there's 2 essential questions. What can my teammate and I do to synergize with each other? You need to be very careful. The game that I played last night was Soul Black Gravelords and Flesh Eater Court, so you can check out that video. I have the whole, it's 4.5 hour game uploaded onto YouTube. You'll have to let me know what you think of that game, by the way. If it's content that you'd like to see more of in the future, or if it's kind of like I can record them and put them up. It's not a big deal, but if people don't want to watch them, then it's not worth the hassle, right? But we shall see. You shall let me know. So last night we were playing against Flesh Eater Courts and Soul Blight Gravelords. Both of them had a lot of recursion and both of them had a lot of hordes. So they were sort of stepping on each other's toes. They weren't really like putting a lot of thought into what they were going to do for a team game, right? Like some, but not a ton. And it was the first game, so lots to learn. But you know, the hordes were definitely getting in each other's way, bottlenecking each other. So it's like, well, you want to synergize, right? You don't want to be counter-synergistic. And then what rules are still powerful with only 100 points or 1,000 points? So for example, Big Wa at 1,000 points is worse. It's significantly worse because you have fewer units charging, you have fewer units stuck in combat, you have fewer screens for your really important heroes in the back because you still need to bring a Bone Splitter Wizard, a War Chanter, and a General. And yeah, I mean, you're just going to generate WA points less quickly unless you're going to be like an Iron Jaws hyper-aggressive list, right? Where you're going to get stuck in and stay in combat, right? But without a 2,000 point big WA list, you're just sort of handicapping yourself a little bit. Some armies are going to be better in the 1,000 point range than others. Another example could be Iron Jaws. So smashing and bashing seems less. Oh, another thing about Big WA too is that you only have 1,000 points, so your toolbox is much smaller. You can't have Bull Boys and a Wurgog and reinforced brutes and Ardboys and pig, right? Like all of a sudden it's like, well, you don't get to have all of those pieces in your toolbox, so you have to, you know, pick and choose what's actually going to be in the toolbox. So with Iron Jaws with an Alpha Strike style, again, it's smashing and bashing loses some of its potency, because you're still going to need some backline support guys, right, like War Chanters and such, and so you're going to just have fewer move up to the front and kill the thing that you're fighting type of units, right? You're not going to have one or two Mock Rushes probably, right? So, but Cruel Boys, on the other hand, actually do pretty well at only 1,000 points. Gobsprak is still going to be very powerful, knowing all the spells in the lore. Bolt Boys, you know, Venom Encrusted Weapon still works. And then if you have three, all you need is 3 things that can do a Cruel Boy Wah, right? So if you have a Sludge, you can't really do, like, it's kind of tough. You could probably do something like a Gobsprak and a Gnashtooth, and then some Bolt Boys and a Shaman. You might be able to fit something like that in, but maybe you kind of lose the Cruel Boy Wah. But again, that's another consideration, right? It's like, if you play Cruel Boys, are you going to have enough to do a Wah, or is it going to be a Wah-less Cruel Boys? I mean, like, if I just wanted to do some quick math, let's just say I wanted to do 2 Gnashtooths, 2 Gnashtooths, a Sludge Raker, 2 units of Bolt Boys, and 2 Swamp Kala Shamans, comes out to 1210. So it's like we're still way over cost here. So it's like, and that's with a Grin and Blades list. So maybe we have to subtract 1 unit of Bolt Boys, and maybe we have to subtract a Shaman. So you could do that, right? So you could do, for example, 2 Gnashtooths, a Sludge Raker, a unit of Reinforced Bolt Boys, and a Swamp Kala Shaman for 1,000 points. That would be a decent list. A melee-focused list. You'd have like a block of 9 shooters with a Shaman beside them. The Sludge Raker could also be a Gobsprak. You could do that too, right? That would probably be better. And then you have another 50 points. So you could throw in an Endless, or you'd have 60 points. You could throw in an Endless spell, and then, you know, you have this, you have Gobsprak that can cast it, a Swamp Kala Shaman that can cast it, and then your opponent, or your ally, can also cast it. So, so for this tournament, how did my first attempt go? So for this tournament, I'm going to be playing Gits. I'm going to swap and play Gits for a while now, because I've been playing Big Wah. I've been playing nothing but Big Wah for like 8 months, 9 months. You know, for the better part of a year, I've been playing almost exclusively Big Wah, and then some casual games with Iron Jaws and Cruel Boys and Gits here and there. But mostly I've been, you know, like I was practicing for the GT, and then I was entering into this league, right? Of which I got 4th out of like 27 players or something. I won best destruction, so the Big Wah was a good army for me for sure. But I'm going to start playing a lot more Gits and expand my personal play and my channel to include all green skins, right? So we're going to do Gits and Gobbos, or Gits and Orcs. So my first attempt actually went really poorly. Not gonna lie, my first attempt went really poorly. What I did was I took a double reinforced unit of Squig Herd, and I did everything I could to buff them. So I had Grinkrat and his Loon Court. I mean, like, let's just see. I'll just show you some quick math here. So I had Grinkrat, and I had a Squig Boss. Is he 110 or 100? I can't remember. We'll say 110. Plus I had a triple or a double reinforced unit of Squigs. And then I had... What else did I have? Can't even remember anymore. I had a couple Endless spells. I think I had like 100 points worth of Endless spells. And then what else did I have? I've since probably deleted the list. So here was the list. Squig Boss with the general with Loon Touched, so he can cast an extra spell. And then I can't remember if he can unbind an extra spell or not during the Loon Toucher. That's not right. Yeah, Loon Touched. Oops. Oh man, this is just a mess, Moss. So it's Loon Touched. And 1 additional spell in each of your hero phases while it's affected by the light of the bad moon. So he's a 2 cast while under the light of the bad moon. And then Grinkrat's double reinforced Squig Herd, 150 points worth of Boingrot Bounders, and then a Pendulum, Geminids, and that was the list. Now, what I found, and this is an important lesson for me going forward in the doubles tournament, in my thinking and planning, is I was too all in with Squighard. I had 1,000 points, and too much of it was in one unit, right? Like, almost more than, like, if you look at, it's like I have this block of Squigs with Grinkrat, Squig Boss, and then the Loon Court to kind of, you know, cover the back, right? Because I got the Squigs in the front, the Loon Court in the back, and then these two little heroes that sit in the middle, and then these two endless spells that I can cast, which were both really strong and really good, but then just like a unit of Bounders running around, doing whatever they're going to do. And I lost the herd to Flesh Eater Court's Recursion, right? So like I traded and killed a bunch of stuff, but then a whole bunch of stuff just came back, and then that was the game for me, right? Because I was playing this in Jaws of Mork, so, and I have like no real recursion. Like I'm not playing Clammy Hand, and I wasn't playing King Skits, so it's like the herd came back on turn 4, right? They died pretty early, and then they came back on turn 4. So this game didn't really have me doing much, and so that was my first attempt, and I learned a few important things. And I think that what I'm going to do moving forward is I'm going to just play a whole bunch of Boingrot Bounders, right? I'm going to play a whole bunch of Boingrot Bounders, and I'm going to play like King's Gits and Clammy Hand, so that I can just sit with my general beside the Loon Shrine, and I can just bring back more and more Boingrot Bounders. I think my plan is to actually play with 4 times 5 Boingrot Bounders, and then with King's Gits and with the Clammy Hand, I'm going to keep bringing back Bounders. They're going to keep coming back out of the Loon Shrine, more and more recursion, a general that just, sits behind the shrine defensively, and it's going to be very different, right? I'm going to see what happens if I just play heavy recursion in a doubles list. And my friend, my partner is going to play a summoning Seraphon. So it's going to be like 2 units of Skinks for 180 points, and then the rest is going to be Wizards, right? And he's going to just generate points, summon more and more Skinks throughout the whole game, right? Every turn, just summon 10 Skinks, and I'm going to run around with Bounders. And so we're going to have a lot of feet. We're going to have a lot of really fast cavalry. We're going to have some good casters. We're going to have some good endless spells. Like, it's going to be good. So, yeah, tell me what you think. I know that doubles tournaments are a little bit more niche, but tell me what you think. Are you planning on playing in a doubles tournament this year? And if so, what kind of lists are you and your partner thinking of running? But until then, like, subscribe, and wah.